And welcome back to another Stampin' On Friday episode. Today's card we're going to be using this brand new to me, Lawn Fawn stamp set. I've never used these stamps before, and I just ordered a couple packages and they are fabulous. I just love how whimsical they are and the designs of them. So we're going to be using the Admit 1 stamp set. We're going to be using this Ferris wheel right here, and then You Make Me Go, You Make My World Go Round as my sentiment. So I'm going to be using some paper tray ink, vintage cream cardstock, and for Copa coloring, which it's not the best to be using for Copa coloring because it absorbs the Copic ink a little bit more than, say, the paper tray inks Stamper Select white cardstock because it's a smoother surface. But if I just do with a really light touch, it should be work fine. So I'm going to use some Memento black or tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to be using this die here, and I want to be able to get my die on here as well as my sentiment. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball where I want, and I was hoping I had a pencil sitting right here, but I don't. Eyeball where this is going to be. So I know I'm not going to go any higher than this, so I'll just use my pen here. So I know I need to stamp right in the center of this area here, so just so I can get the most out of my cardstock. So I'm going to stamp up my ink pad, or my stamp rather, with the black ink. And I'm just going to stamp that right in the center here. And then I'm going to take my heat gun and just dry the ink on this a little bit. I don't normally have to do this with the white cardstock, but I am with the vintage cream. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is start with this BG05, and that's going to be my color that I'm going to use on the little baskets, or whatever you call these little things for the Ferris wheel. So I'm probably going to have to speed this up, and like I said, if you're using something like the vintage cream cardstock, you just want to go with a really light touch with the tip of your marker. Okay, so that was the BG05. So I'm going to start using E31 and E35, and for this I'm going to start and just work in sections, and like I said, you want to go with a pretty light touch. So I'm going to want to give this to look like it's a wood merry-go-round. There, I said it again. Wood Ferris wheel. So I'm just kind of going with my lighter color, and then I'm going to add some darker, which is the E35. And then I'll go ahead back with my my E31 and blend. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of my Ferris wheel. Okay, now for the center of the Ferris wheel, I'm going to go with my E31, and I'm going to lay the base color down. I'm going to take my E35 and just come from the side, and I'm just tapping in the color. And then I'll use my E31 to kind of blend that in. Okay, so there's my Ferris wheel. And now what I'm going to do is, I really like watching Stamp TV, and I love how she uses her nestabilities. Gina K uses nestabilities and stuff like that. So I thought I would try something like that today. So that's kind of new for me. So I have my Cuttlebug out here, and I'm going to be using my A plate, B plate. I have my die, or my stamp image here, then my die, and this is Nestability's label, I believe it's label number 1. So I'm just trying to make sure that's center. And then I'm going to use my C plate on top of that. Just making sure it looks pretty center. Alright, and then I'll just go ahead and cut that out. I'm just going to set that aside for right now. And then I'm just going to leave my image inside the die. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. And as I said before, we're going to use the You Make My World Go Round. And I'm going to do this in Memento Rich Cocoa ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink my stamp up. And then on my piece of scrap here, I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that sentiment. And that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is bring back my Cuttlebug here. Again, using the same plates, A and B. I'm going to use my sentiment here. And then I have another Nestabilities die. This one is from the Ribbons Trio set. So I'm just going to go ahead and center that there and cut that out. Okay, so there's my sentiment cut out in a little tag, and I like this because it has the little holes there that I can run my ribbon through. And then before I put my Cuttlebug away, I'm going to cut out with using the same Nestabilities Label 1 die, but it's just a little bit larger than the first one we used. I'm going to cut that out on some brown cardstock, and I'm just going to make a mat for my stamped image. Okay, so let me just get my Cuttlebug out of the way. And then we have our cutout piece from there. Now the next thing I want to do is, before I take this out of the die, I'm just going to grab a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to use some Baja Breeze Stampin' Up ink with just a little foam dauber here. And I'm going to kind of wipe some of this ink off. And then I'm going to just kind of brush the edges of my die, so that when I peel this off, I'm going to have a white, or actually a vintage cream edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so now when I take my die off of my image, I have that edge. Okay, so let me just go ahead and clean up some of this stuff here, and we're ready to go ahead and start putting our card together. And again, this is inspired by Stamp TV. I'll put the link to the YouTube channel down below in the description of the video and over on my blog. For my card base, I'm using some vintage cream cardstock, and this is a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece, and I'm going to score this at 5 1/2. So let me just get out my score pal, or my Martha Stewart scoreboard here, because my score buddy is lost underneath the glass of my desk, and I didn't get it out before I started filming, so I'm just going to use this one to make my score line. And that'll be the base of my card. I have this piece of pattern paper, which comes from this Lime Twist Fly a Kite by My Mind's Eye paper pad. And I love this paper pad. I love the colors. They're so bright and colorful. So I'm going to use that. And then this is going to be layered on top of a piece of brown cardstock, which measures 4 1/4 by, or this measures 4 by 5 1/4. And then this pattern paper measures 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to use, just put some adhesive on the back. And then I'll layer that down onto my brown cardstock. Okay, so that's that piece right there. The next thing I'm going to do is layer my stamped image that I just got done doing onto my brown cardstock. And I'm just going to go ahead and center that right in the middle of the little shape there. So there we go. And then I'm going to adhere this down right to the front of that, and I'm going to use some pop dots for that, or foam adhesive, just to pop it up. So I'm just going to lay this right in the center, just like that. Okay. And then for my little frame that I cut out here, I'm going to take a piece of ribbon and just feed it through, coming from the top on one side and then coming through the back on the other. And that's going to get centered right here on the front of my card. And to adhere this down, I'm just going to use some score tape, or put that right along the back. And this is the 1/4 inch score tape. So I'm just going to right along the back of the ribbon here, all the way across. I'll peel that backing off. And then this will get centered right there. And then I can use the score tape to just bring this around to the back of my card. And then I'll go ahead and adhere that right to my card base. That's our card for today. Thanks for watching another episode, and I'll see you next time.